Hey everyone, it's Alison Heikkila. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to do some mixed media fun because I haven't done it in a while and I'm really in the mood. So I've got some old sheet music and 2 colors of Distress Oxide. If you don't have sheet music, that's okay. You can use whatever kind of cardstock or paper you usually use when you're spraying things. You can use some pattern paper. I would make sure that it's not too thin so that you don't destroy the paper, although that could be a good look. But this is a nice weight, and I work on sheet music all the time. So I'm going to shake these up really quick. I started to shake them before. And we're not going for any specific look. I just want to get some color on this paper. And I like the Distress Oxides for this because it's got that pigment property to it. So it's a little bit more opaque than the spray stain. I do like using spray stain on sheet music too, but I don't want the sheet music to show completely through. I want to get kind of a it's here, it's not here kind of effect. So I'm just covering this whole paper because then I can use it as a masterboard and create smaller things with it if I want to, or just keep going with it like this. Be great for an art journal, whatever, all sorts of fun things, scrapbook pages, etc., etc. So this looks good. I don't want to cover the whole thing completely because I want the sheet music to show. And now I'm going to let this dry. This is all dry, and I don't think I mentioned what colors I was using. I have Mermaid, Lagoon, and Twisted Citron, but obviously you can use whatever colors float your boat. So that's what I use today. And now this looks pretty cool. There's a ton of techniques that you can do with oxide sprays, but I really just wanted color and partial coverage. So I didn't need to do any fancy techniques. I didn't need to spray it with water. This is exactly what I was going for. So now I have the I Love Squares stencil from A Colorful Life Designs, and we're going to use that next. So when I'm doing mixed media, I like to start with color in the background as my base layer. And then I like to start working with some bigger objects that may wind up receding a bit into the background. They're not the focal point, okay? They can just kind of be there, here and there. They're not like the number one important thing. So this is going to kind of recede into the background, but I really thought that the squares would make a cool look with the sheet music. So I also grabbed Spruce VersaFine Clair, and I have a cosmetic sponge. I keep cosmetic sponges for each color of VersaFine Clair in a little baggie like this, and I label them. It just makes it easier, it keeps them neater, and I just find that it's the best way for me to apply these inks if I'm not going direct to paper. So I'm going to take this. It's just a cheapo cosmetic sponge. You can use other things. I don't really like using pigment inks with brushes, but if you do, that's cool. I just prefer doing this. So now I'm going to just apply this color, and it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be the entire stencil. We're going to wind up doing this on a lot of the background, but not complete coverage. So that is all I'm going for over here. So I'm going to do a little bit more somewhere else, move the stencil so that I'm doing a different segment of the stencil because I don't want it to look like I'm repeating the pattern everywhere. See, just a little bit here and there. That's all we really need. We just want it to kind of peek through and be like, oh, what's happening there? There's some squares going on in the background. I know I'm a little off frame. I apologize. I'll show it to you in a sec. There we go. See that? I should probably work with this sideways. How's that? Is that better? It's probably better for you guys, right? I'm just using it the other way because that's the way that you read the sheet music. Old habits die hard. I played the flute for a very long time, from when I was in 3rd grade? Yeah, 3rd grade all the way through senior year of high school. Not that I was good, because I wasn't. But I did. Look at that. That looks so cool already. We want to make sure we get some in the middle because, again, we're going to wind up cutting this piece down. So I don't want to cut this and then there's hardly any squares. So we're going to do some in the middle. Kind of like this area here because there's a bunch of little ones. And I'm trying to not overlap. I don't really want to overlap the pattern. If it gets close, that's fine, but I don't want to mess up any of the squares. See? That looks cool. and we'll do some more down here. I added some more squares to this background, and I'm really happy with how it looks. I think it looks really cool. One tip that I can give you is if you're working on a design like a masterboard like this is, or even if it's just a small panel for a card, and you're trying to work on a background and you want it to look full and complete and not like it's missing anything. One thing that I learned in art school was if you turn your piece around in all directions and it looks good in all directions, then you know that you've got a more complete and balanced design going. So this looks good from all directions. I'm happy with it. And now we're going to move on to the next layer. So I have these Wildflowers stamps from Pink and Main. There are a bajillion silhouette florals out there. And if you're not into florals, that's okay. You can choose something else. But I really like this piece here. And the reason I like that one is because it's got movement to it. It's got that curve. I don't really want to use something that's straight like this because I'm going to scatter this all over the piece. And it's going to look kind of weird to just have these weird straight stems kind of floating all over. So this looks like it's got movement to it already. So that's why we're going to use this one. If you don't have any floral silhouette stamps like this, again, just look through your stash, see what you have. I just don't want to have anything scattered that looks super stagnant. And when I'm making backgrounds like this, I like to do a mix of geometric and organic. So I've got that on my block now, and I've got Twilight VersaFine Clair. This is my favorite color besides Nocturne. I use this one so much. It's just fantastic. It's great if you don't want something as harsh as black, but you want something nice and deep. So now we're just going to stamp this all over. Make sure you go off the page. Make sure that you rotate your design so that it doesn't look, again, like perfectly planned and kind of stagnant. I should have turned that one more, but that's okay. That'll probably wind up being cut apart. And if you don't get a complete stamping, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. But do you see why it's better to have something that has this type of movement to it as opposed to a straight line? I just think it makes it more interesting. Again, stamping off the page to make it look like there's a bigger world beyond this paper. We're going to go like that. And maybe another one up here. Perfect. I think that looks good. Now it's perfect. Now it's time to trim down our piece. We could keep going and adding more layers, but I'm happy with how this is looking. And based on what I'm probably going to use next, I think that we should stop here. So I have this piece that my son 3D printed for me. And this is the interior. This space is 4 by 5 1/4. So this is the size panel that I usually use when I'm making an A2 size card because it leaves me a nice border around the edge. So I just had him print this for me. I actually need him to print me a better one because it's a little wonky, but it gives me a good enough idea to kind of frame out and see exactly what I want to work with. So I think this is pretty. And I was playing with different areas off camera, but I think what we're going to go with is here. It's got a good amount of unsprayed area. It's got some green, it's got some blue, and I think we're going to go with that. And I wanted to point out, one of the things that I like about using the VersaFine Clairs with the Distress Oxide sprays is the oxides tend to overtake the Clairs a bit. So you could see that the spray is popping out here, almost as if I had done the inking first and then spraying. See that? So the Clair kind of recedes to the background a bit, and I really like that effect. So you could, of course, do the inking first, but then I think that it would take over the Clairs too much. So that's why I did it in that way. So we're going to cut this down, and then we're going to start playing with some dyes. So this is now cut, and look at how much we have left to play with. This is going to be at least 3 more cards. It could be a bunch of ATCs, whatever you want, strips, but it's a great way to use up some paper, especially cool paper like this. Okay, so I've got that, and now I have the My Life in Pictures dies from Spellbinders, and I thought it would be kind of cool to have this there. There's also a couple of other smaller dies. There's a heart, there's a star. Let me see if I can get them. Not sure if we're going to use them yet. See, like the heart is kind of cool. But we're going to start with this, and then I'll go from there. I have this nice dark teal cardstock. I think that this is from My Colors, and I'm going to cut this out of that. I might wind up needing a second color behind it to kind of make it pop, but we'll see. So here it is with that nice dark teal, but it really does need to pop some more. So I did in fact cut it out of another cardstock. This is Mint Julep from My Colors. And I think that that looks better. Isn't that cool? And it brings out some more of that green. I really like that. So I'm going to glue this together. You don't need to watch me do that part. And then we'll move on from there. Okay, so this is glued, and I'm really happy with it. But I decided that I wanted to add some vellum into the holes, and it will just soften that background a little bit. I thought about leaving it, but I think that it'll just make it pop even further. So I'm taking the piece itself. We could use the die too, but it doesn't really matter. And I've got some vellum here, and I'm going to just make a mark about halfway in, and I'm going to just cut it down. I could have just brought it to the edge of the vellum, but this is fine. Okay, so now I'm going to just trim this all the way down. Trim this. Oops, like so. And this should fit behind our piece. Like that. So now I'm going to glue this into place. I added the vellum to the film strip, and I think it looks great. I trimmed off the excess, and then I die cut these dandelions from the July 2023 My Monthly Hero Kit. I made them out of white cardstock, and what I'm going to do is first I'm going to add some YG67 to the stems. Just really quickly, like that. And then we're going to add some embossing ink. And then we're going to heat emboss with a glittery embossing powder. And I think that's going to look really pretty. There we go. So I've got my VersaMark ink here. And I'm just going to push this right into the pad. This is a sticky pad so that the embossing powder will adhere to it and allow you to heat set the powder. Let's see if we can do this by just dunking these flowers into the powder. That works. See that? Nice and glittery. And we don't have to rush. We have plenty of time to work with this. Just working that in. There we go. Nice and glittery. Get off some of that excess off the stem. Okay, now we're going to use our heat tool and set the powder. Okay. So here we have our very pretty glittery dandelions. without making a whole lot of mess. That was Stampendous embossing powder called Stardust. I'll link it if I can find it anywhere, but if not, you know, as usual, just use what you've got. Oh, we've got this little guy too. Let me do that real quick too. I have these arranged kind of how I want them, and I also grabbed this sentiment. This is from the Cherish This BetterPress plate and die set. It's from the Golden Afternoon collection that actually the film strip piece is from as well. And I think that that's going to look really nice here. And I'm going to, of course, add some color to it. But first, we're going to add some glue to these pieces, and then we'll colorize this, get it on our card, and see where it takes us. Let's add some color to our sentiment. So I've got Tumbled Glass, Distress Ink, and a blending brush because I want this to be soft. I could go direct to paper, but I'd rather it be a little softer. And that's one of the nice things about making your sentiments in white cardstock and batching them beforehand is you don't have to spend a lot of time making your sentiments when you're in the process of creating, and then you can just customize the color to whatever you need at the time. Okay, this is looking great. Oh, we need to cut this first. Let's trim this off. See how nice the sheet music is? The color didn't even bleed through, which is excellent. That's another reason I like using it so much. Okay, excess scraps out of the way. This can go like that. Do I want to pop it up? I think I do. I have the 1mm strips from scrapbook.com. These are foam strips, and I really like using these. Just going to trim that off. Okay, and now we're going to apply this like so. Nice. And now we have our white card base, which you know I'm not leaving white. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my VersaMark ink again. And I have this aged green embossing enamel. Again, it's also from Stampendous. I don't think it's available anymore. Use what you've got. I know that there are lots of different mixes out there like this. I believe WoW has some, Seth Apter. You can always mix your own. Just take a bunch of different types of embossing powder, put them in a jar, shake it up, and you've got your own mix. But I think that this is going to give us a nice coppery look, which is going to look fantastic. So I am going to grab my paper from before and apply this to two sides. I like to do two at a time. And then we're going to pour this on. Now there are some bigger bits of powder in here, so they don't stick as well because they're heavier. So you don't want to tap off too much of this at once. Look, see what happens? You lose a lot of that copper. So we're going to try not to tap off too much. So you don't want to apply too much either, because then you're going to wind up shaking it off and losing it, and there's a fine line. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my heat tool. I'm going to slip my finger underneath here and open this up a little bit, because we're going to heat it from underneath so that we don't blow all of these larger pieces out of the way. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, let me grab my heat tool. Careful not to shake things around too much. I'm going to let this warm up a bit, and then we're going to go at it from below, like I said. It's a little tricky to do on camera for me, but we'll do a little bit. You should be able to see it start to melt. See that? Isn't that cool? All right, so I'm going to finish the rest of this off camera, and then I'll do the other two sides, same thing, and we will move on. Here's what the card base looks like now, and I love this look. Isn't that so cool? So this is just a fun technique to do anytime. It doesn't have to be for a mixed media project or whatever, but it's so much fun. Okay, so I added some 1/4 inch foam tape to the back of my panel. that's from a cherry on top. And now I'm going to just center this on there as best as I can. That's not perfect, but that's okay. Oh, isn't that fun? Now, I could probably keep going and add more stuff to it, but I think that this video is already long enough. So we did a bunch of cool techniques on here, and I love how it turned out. I really like how this is showing through the film strip. I think it's so pretty, but it's super mixed media and cool. All right, so that's it for me. I will be back very soon with another video. I hope you enjoyed this. Break out all of your goodies and just play. Just have a good time and play. You could come up with something pretty amazing. So I will see you next time. Be well, stay safe. Peace out.